Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk to you about the crazy situation that's going on now, at least on Twitter, with backlash against the new Peter Pan movie that's going to be on Disney Plus because they cast a black actress to play Tinkerbell, which is a character that's always been white. And, I've talked about this before, so, this is kind of a rehash of the issue on my part, but I feel like I have to talk about it again because it's ridiculous that people are upset about this. Now, to be fair, I have to say that I think certain characters should be off limits. Kal-El, Superman, okay? Clark Kent. I don't think you change that character's race. I don't think you change, Bruce Wayne, Batman, or any of the other founding members of the Justice League, for example, okay? That's not to say that you can't have a different Superman who isn't Kal-El that's black. You can totally do that. But Kal-El is white. Same for Wonder Woman and Batman. You can do different versions, different characters that pick up their mantle, but those original characters should stay the way they were. And same thing for the Marvel Universe. Steve Rogers, Captain America, is white. The current Captain America is black because it's not Steve Rogers, and that's cool. So I think there's certain characters you shouldn't touch. I think they're iconic. I think they're above being changed. I think in that case, you swap them out for a different person who's taking on their mantle. But other than that, what is the big deal that Tinkerbell is black? They just did this again over The Little Mermaid, just before this, which was about the last time I made a video about it. And now again, with Tinkerbell. And I don't understand it. Because, some of the backlash is, why won't they give people of color new characters? It's racist of them to just give people of color old white characters and not give them any new characters, like, hand-me-downs, like sloppy seconds. And I don't think that's what it's about at all. And I don't think it's that, production companies don't want to give people of color new characters. Production companies don't want to make things about new characters, period. White, black, Asian, whatever, if they can avoid it. Because those properties aren't as bankable as existing IPs. They're much riskier than long-standing IPs. Comic book heroes, fairy tale heroes, heroes from popular novels, or characters from popular novels. Characters that have been established years ago in previous movies that get reboots. That's the kind of stuff they want to do because it's much more bankable. So the reason that POC aren't getting new characters is just because new characters aren't as big a thing. Now, of course, this is not to say that there aren't any new characters ever. There are, and it's probably true that people of color don't get those roles as often as they should. And that may have some connection to racism, but a big reason that you're seeing black Tinkerbell and black Little Mermaid and so forth instead of new black characters is because new characters, no matter what color they are, aren't bankable the same way that established properties are. The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan, comic book heroes. So what's happening is production companies keep going back to the well of these bankable properties and remaking them. I mean, how many Peter Pan movies have we had in recent years? A bunch. And so the choice, once they've decided to do that, is do we keep the entire cast white as it was in the original material and not give any roles to anybody but white people? Or do we race swap some of these characters so that we don't put out a property that doesn't have any black people in it? The creators of these things were just biased towards white people and against black people, either consciously or unconsciously. So if they're going to make a movie about an old property now, are they supposed to make those same casting choices and just perpetuate that bullshit as a side effect? Or do they say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to actually cast some black people in some of these parts? I think that's what they should be doing. And that's what they are doing, and they're catching hell for it. And it's ridiculous. Now, as I said a second ago, we've had a ton of Peter Pan movies in recent years. So why they needed to make another one, I don't know. So you can kind of say, what the hell? They didn't even need to make this. So can you really say, well, they're making a Peter Pan and so they had to cast black people? I agree, they probably shouldn't have made the stupid thing. But what happens a lot in Hollywood with these older properties is that different companies get the rights to them. And if they don't use them by a certain date, they lose the exclusive ownership on those properties. The copyrights revert back, or they otherwise lose exclusivity on those properties. And so what happens a lot of times is movies and shows and whatnot get made when they get made, for the simple fact that if they're not made at that time, the people who own the rights are going to lose them and therefore their investment. And so they go, oh, we got to make this. So somewhere between now and the last time a Peter Pan movie was made, the rights may have changed hands, and the people who are making this movie now may have only had a certain amount of time to make something. Now, of course, it's Disney, so maybe it's just a case of, they would lose the rights for the mere fact that copyrights have to be acted on just generally. Not so much that it's a contractual thing for when they last acquired the rights, but that happens as well. Like, a company will acquire the rights to something and they only have a certain period of time to use it. That might be different than what's happening here, where it's Disney and they own the characters, but they'll not own them if they don't use use them. So I'm not saying that's what's happened in this case, but it happens. So you got the Little Mermaid remake, you got the Peter Pan remake, other properties get remade. Star Trek's one of them, where there was a period where there's no Star Trek, then all of a sudden, hey, new Star Trek. So a lot of times they have no choice but to make these things or they're going to lose their investment. And so again, when they do that, because there were no black people in them in the beginning, which was a result of racism and or unconscious bias, they make a conscious decision not to perpetuate that. And I think that's totally fine. That's the choice they should be making. And on top of that, like I said, Hollywood wants to keep making reliable, bankable films and shows. And that's primarily why people of color aren't getting new roles, because they're not making new IPs as opposed to, or in comparison to, how many projects they're making with existing IPs. So this is just the way it is. If you don't want to see any more old IPs being made into movies and films, cool. Stop supporting them and they'll stop being made. And then maybe Hollywood will start making new IPs and people of color will get new roles instead of these race-swapped hand-me-down roles. But until that happens, as long as greed rules the day, this is what's going to happen. They're going to keep making these older IPs and remaking them. And as long as they're doing that, you can't ask them to perpetuate the racism, whether it was conscious or unconscious, that kept black people from being cast in them when they were first created. So just knock it off. And that's really all I have to say. I'm going to get out of here for now. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.